I urge people to know the difference between how you make money and what people are paying you for. Those are two very different things. In every aspect of your life, like if you're willing to have the difficult conversations, happiness is right there. One of the most important things is I say to people, no, pick up the rug and shake it out. You want to know all the issues because you cannot fix them if you don't know what they are.
I'm your host, Debra Chantry-Taylor, and I'm passionate about helping entrepreneurs live their best life by creating a better business. I started this podcast about 6 years ago, and the idea was to share stories about other entrepreneurs and how they had learnt through the ups and downs of running a business. These days, I do it just because I really enjoy the conversations that I have, and today's guest is absolutely no exception. So today's guest dropped out of college to become a professional pool player. He set up his business, which was a parts business, purely to make enough money to open a pool hall. He's been a yoga teacher and is now an EOS implementer. And he implemented EOS into his business. And while the business had been flat for a number of years, in the space of 5 years, he managed to grow his business by 484%. So today they're going to share with you that story, how this all started, how that business grew, how they self-implemented EOS, then took on board an EOS implementer, and then how they're now an EOS implementer themselves and the tools that they use to help other businesses achieve similar results. I'd like to introduce you to Jeff Starin, who is a certified EOS implementer and also a president of the Entrepreneurs Organization chapter in LA. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thank you. Lovely to be here, Deborah.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. We've just been having a little bit of chat offline before we come on board, as we always do, and you just told me your story, and it is fascinating, and I'd love you to share that with the listeners.
My story's a little wacky. I went to college, as all my friends did, and it was not for me. I wasn't prepared for it, and I wasn't well suited for it, so I dropped out to become a professional pool player. Or I dropped out and became a professional pool player is probably more apt. That was super fun. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I stopped doing it. And at some point after a couple of years, I decided I wanted to open my own pool hall in New York, but I didn't have enough money. So my plan, which made total sense in my 20-year-old brain, was open a business to make enough money to open a pool hall. Right. So I did. I opened what I would generously call an auto parts distribution business, which was me in a van hustling. Lube shops had just popped up. They didn't exist a few years before that. So I would go find out what parts they needed, find somebody to get them from. And I was just hustling, just, making a living. I found a couple of niches and eventually scaled that to, I still own that business. It's 35 years later now, but I scaled that business. Along the way, I did some other things. I would probably call it a semi-professional poker player. I didn't do it for a living, but I was a winning poker player, which I think probably 1% of poker players are, I had a guess. So that was kind of fun. I stuck with that business for a long time. And at some point we got stuck. I'd scaled to about 5 million in revenue and we were stuck so hard. I mean, 4 years in a row of exactly the same revenue, plus or minus 3%. We were selling the same things to the same people at the same prices. I tried everything I could imagine and I didn't know what to do. So somebody gave me a copy of the book Traction. I tore it apart. It's like, I need this book. Implemented EOS in my business. It was an absolute game changer. Within 5 years, our sales had doubled. Profit was up 484%. I remember that number so specifically. And that was it. Then I started to enjoy my job again. I was teaching, coaching, mentoring my people. I liked going to work again. It was such a nice thing. And then at some point, I felt like I stopped learning and growing. I got a little bored and I started doing this. I became an EOS implementer a couple of years ago. It is my favorite job I've ever had. And this is, it's such a privilege to be able to do for other people what, was done for me some years back. So that's how I ended up here.
Awesome. Who was your implementer out of interest?
Josh Holtzman.
Oh, Josh. Okay, cool. Yeah, I love Josh.
He's a dear friend of mine, actually.
Is he? Yeah, and that's what I love about the EOS implementers. They're all great people, and we become friends very quickly. Hey, but you did share with me that you didn't get an implementer straight away, did you?
No, so I tried to self-implement I read the book and I spoke to a couple of implementers. I think I interviewed 3, and I decided to self-implement because of course I did, because I'm an entrepreneur and because, I'm not that they're expensive. Like, oh yeah, they're expensive. I don't want to spend the money. I'm sure I could do this. I tried that for about 9 months, and I won't say there was no benefit. There certainly were some helpful things, but at some point I realized this was silly. And yeah, and then I hired Josh, and within almost immediately, if I remember, and this is 10 years ago now, I remember thinking to myself, oh yeah, this wasn't expensive. This is the biggest bargain I've ever paid for because the value is so through the roof. It was just night and day from doing it myself. So that was how I ended up hiring somebody. Yeah.
I'm really pleased to hear that, but I'd love to kind of delve a little bit into that. So lots of people read the book, get excited, decide to self-implement, and let's face it, they definitely get some benefit out of it, but it isn't the full picture. Tell me, what did you do? Like once you read the traction book, what was the first thing you kind of went to in terms of self-implementing?
So I went through building the vision, building the VTO, and I followed the exercises in the book, as prescribed. I think if I remember correctly, the book says go offsite somewhere with your leadership team, and we did that. So I mean, I took it very seriously, and I did create the vision. Although, of course, looking back, I think what I created was not as potent as it could have been, right? Because you just don't have a coach. Like my 10-year target was it was very long, and there were a lot of goals, and it was kind of convoluted, but yeah, you don't know exactly. So I remember that was the first part. And then the part where I got stuck, the part where I got quite frustrated, it was the traction part. It was the discipline. It was the accountability. It was how do I get people to do the things they need to do? And that's where it really, I think, fell apart for me was learning to get right people, right seats. I understood it was the accountability chart, doing a good job with that, and then the scorecard measurables to go along with it. How do you make sure that the people are doing the right things all the time? I never got a handle on that until I hired Josh.
And I'm also interested because you are obviously the visionary. I mean, that's a that's a no-brainer.
Very much, yes.
Did you have an integrator in your business at that point?
Not at first.
And was there somebody in there that became that role, or did you have to go outside to look for it? And what was the aha moment when you kind of went, "This is what we need"?
So I hesitated hiring an EOS implementer partially because of the money. I was like, this is expensive, right? But then I did, and I was like, oh, it's a bargain. So then I was sitting in both the visionary and the integrator seats for a while, knowing I was not well suited for the integrator seat. But to hire somebody, I didn't have anyone internally at that time that I thought would be good at it. And to hire somebody was going to cost a lot. And I said, I think we could figure this out, or maybe take somebody from within the organization. At that point, we probably had 30 or 35 employees, I think. And at some point, I had that same feeling that I did before I hired Josh, which was, is this saving me money or is this costing me money by not hiring a proper person? So I ended up hiring a firm that specialized in EOS. They brought me in my first integrator, and he was great. Unfortunately, after about 6 months, for family reasons, he moved somewhere, and this was sort of pre-COVID, so working remotely it wasn't going to work very well. So he left, and at that point, there was somebody by that time internally, and I was like, "She's the one. Like, she can do it." So she and I had some conversations, a lot of coaching, a lot of confidence building, and she moved into the integrator seat. She's been in it ever since, and she's spectacular.
Wonderful. Hey, so for some of the listeners listening in, they may not know really these roles of visionary and integrator. You want to quickly describe what a visionary does and what an integrator does?
Visionary drives people crazy with ideas. One of the things that we do, it's very hard to work it was hard to work for me as a visionary. Visionary is the person who walks into the room with 49 ideas every day and everybody is dizzy. Like, wait, what are we doing now? What's going on? But they're so good at relationship. Like that's the person, they're the best salespeople because they're so authentic in the way that they communicate, in the way that they connect with people. Visionaries, certainly me and most of us, just terrible at getting things done. Like if you needed a project manager, I'm the worst person you could hire to do that. My brain doesn't function that way. And if I can, one of the things that happened to me when I read Traction was I always felt flawed. Like I always felt like there was something wrong. I didn't know how to run a business well. And I was not a good manager. And I knew that. I was very kind, but it's like, can't you just do your job? Like, why do I need to manage everybody all the time? Just go do the thing you need to do. And the fact that I knew that I had a hard time driving things through to completion and was always on to new things, like people would tell me that. And I remember when I read the book, I'll tear up a little bit probably. I felt seen. I said, "Oh, I'm not flawed. Like I'm just this person and I need that person." So the other person, the integrator, is the person who is responsible. Like they're the adult in the room for all practical purposes, right? Like they're the person who people will eventually they'll go to that person and they keep everything moving and running and coordinated. And that's the person who is excellent at following things through to completion and all the detail and making sure people are where they're supposed to be doing the things they're supposed to be doing. And I just didn't have that skill set. I still don't have that skill set.
Well, I think it's within us, right? It's kind of inherent. You either are or you aren't. There are some people. I'm one of the few people who actually scores high as a visionary, and as an integrator.
Really?
It has some benefits. It also has some cons. Let me tell you, I have a whole bunch of stuff going on in my head all the time about which personality I am. But yeah, but most people are naturally one or the other, or neither. I think this is the thing that was really interesting for me is when I first read the rocket fuel book. I mean, I was sitting there kind of going, "Oh, I'm sort of that, and I'm sort of that." And I did the test, and I was in the high 80s on both of them. So it's like, oh my gosh, I've got a dichotomy kind of brain that's just not normal. But then I thought, this must be bullshit. This test can't be right. There's no way in the world this could be right. So I actually asked my husband at the time, who was an actuary. So I don't know if you know what an actuary is, but
Of course I do. Yeah.
and I said, do the test, do the test. I want to find out, if this thing works. And it came back and it said, you're neither. I was like, okay, it works.
That's interesting.
It is interesting, yeah. So I think it's a real light bulb moment for a lot of my clients is when they suddenly realize, as you said, it's like, actually, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just really, really good at this. And I'm really not good at this. And I think as soon as they make the decision to actually get an integrator in, that's when the business starts to change in terms of it's a relief. It's like I'm not immediately, nobody lets go immediately because we're all control freaks, right? But once you do finally let them run the business, it just becomes easy, doesn't it?
It's very interesting because, we build a business and I think we all convince ourselves, I certainly did, that the business was successful because of me and because I was involved in everything. So delegating becomes hard. And I thought I was delegating, but I really wasn't. I was still all over everything. And when I eventually learned to delegate, what I learned was, which I talk to clients about a lot, is 70% of the time when I would delegate to somebody else, it was fine. Like maybe they didn't do it as well as I did, but not everything needs to be done perfectly. Everything needs to be done. Or I would give them a little feedback and it was fine. And then about 5% of the time, it was a problem and I needed to be involved. Very rarely. It was like, oh, I think I need to be involved in this ongoing. Maybe it was a big relationship with the big customer or something like that, where I said, oh yeah, I need to be there. And about 20 or 25% of the time, they did it better than I ever would have. And it hurt my ego. Like somebody would come in and do something I wouldn't let go of. And I was like, oh, she's doing a much better job than I ever did. And it was like, that was such a startling thing for me because I was so convinced that the business needed me. And turns out a lot of other people are pretty smart and capable.
Yeah. And I think in the beginning, that's a bit of a blow to our ego, though, isn't it? Because, we've kind of built this thing up that we're the best at it. And I always say, I'm perfect. I'm the only person in the whole world who's perfect, but I am perfect. Yeah, and then nobody can live up to it. And it's like, oh, damn it, I'm actually not. And you're right. There are people who do things way, way better than me. And
Way better.
yeah, but in the beginning, it's hard.
It's very hard. I think on my website it says something like, I built a business that was really good at one thing, which was needing me. Like, if everybody's coming to you all the time for everything, it's because that's how you built the business. That's what I did. I was like, oh, there's another way. And it was just such a light as that sort of unfolded over the course of a couple of years. It was magical, really.
We've got a sister business that does fractional integrators, fractional sort of C-suite level people, and also training and stuff. And one of the books that I've written for that is about the visionary being the bottleneck, and I think it's something that most visionaries can relate to. But they, but it's almost like our blind spot, right? We need we need something like the traction book or an implementer to point it out to us. It's like, oh, of course, that's what's going on.
I literally had a conversation 2 hours ago on the couch that you could see behind me with a wonderful person who we're talking, and that's exactly it. He's telling me everything going on in his business, and I said, "So you're the bottleneck?" And he just paused and he said, "Yeah, I guess I am." It's like, you have to get out of your own way, you know? Like, we can talk about this. It's so common.
Okay, so you once you recognize that and once bit the bullet and spent some money on an EOS implementer and started implementing EOS properly, which again, I mean, we're all the same, right? It's like, why would I spend that money when I can probably do it myself and it'll be okay? But as you said, it usually returns in spades in terms of the investment. But what was the first thing that Josh did with you and the team that was, I guess a game changer for you?
It was actually during the first day. It was during focus day. And I remember when we were working on the accountability chart. Now, we had done the accountability chart and I thought it was fine. And I remember when he walked us through and he said, "Throw away the one you have. Let's just do it fresh. If it ends up the same, we're just confirming that that was the right accountability chart." And hit home so hard that none of you have a job right now. I know that's scary. What's the right structure for this organization down the road, right? 6 to 12 months down the road. Forget that you have a job and imagine you don't work here and you're a consultant looking at this business with everything you know. And the accountability chart looked so much different than what we had because all of a sudden we're having conversations where we were able to separate ourselves, which when we did it ourselves, we were not. It was, oh, well, we need a seat for Linda because Linda does this and she's so good at that. And there were a lot of things like that where he came in, forced us out of that. And the minute we would bring up anyone's name, he would, you know, no, 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 no names. And of course, like now I know because I do this for clients and it's wonderful, but that was our accountability chart changed a lot. And that happens, right away on day one. So I remember that. It, it didn't take me very long. I think it was the end of the first day that I realized this was a good investment. Like I said, we need the coaching because, in addition to walking us through things, it was the coaching, it was the conversation. It was us having conversations we hadn't had before because I ran the conversations and everybody went through essentially my lens, or they would let me railroad things through because I was the owner and I was the one doing this. So we're going to do EOS now. So I don't think we really had an even exchange of ideas. When he came in the room, it was very different because now we had an even exchange of ideas and things look quite different. The core values look different, like all of it. So him being there allowed me to really lean into the brains of the rest of the team in a way that didn't happen when I was the one leading it.
And I think that's the challenge, isn't it? Because, as visionaries, you said earlier, we're great at relationships. We're also particularly persuasive, right? We're very, very good at bringing people on our way of thinking, and we're like a dog with a bone, so we don't let go of it. So if you're trying to actually run the business, run the session, be a participant, I mean, you're pretty much you're still taking control, and people are afraid sometimes. No, not afraid, maybe a bit nervous about challenging that because, you are the owner, you're the person who's kind of, steering the boat. Whereas when you bring somebody external in, they are able to allow you as the owner, as the founder to actually participate as well. not just be the person driving it.
Absolutely. Also, we're also the people who sign the paychecks. So it takes a certain amount of trust for them to be willing to say the thing that they haven't been saying, right? And again, that's what we got that we hadn't had before is somebody building the trust, which took a little bit of time for people to say, "Jeff, I think you're wrong. We've been doing this way for a while, but I think you're wrong." That didn't really happen a lot before. So I think there's a lot of value in having a third. I mean, look, we could have graduated after 2 years, and I think we employed him for 6 years or something until I became an implementer and started doing it. And there's a reason. I mean, it was great to have a third party in the room, a neutral third party.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. Okay. So, I mean, I think the accountability chart is one of my favorite tools. I think it's one of the things that I talk about are we self-implementing or self-inflicting? And I think, and that came from a client, a potential client of mine. When I was having a conversation with them. They said, we've been self-implementing or perhaps we've been self-inflicting for the last couple of years.
I may use that. That's great.
Oh, I do. I love it. I use it all the time now. And it's like, actually, when they said self-inflicting, what they meant was, yeah, they had done some of the tools, but they hadn't really done them properly. And the accountability chart is probably the one I think you're right, doesn't get done well. Anybody can put together a VTO. Sure, it's a bit verbose. Sure, it's a bit over the top, but at least it's something rather than nothing. The accountability chart, if you don't let go of those egos, if you don't let go of the people, if you don't let go of the roles, you're just creating a structure based around the people you've got. And if nothing changes, nothing changes.
Right, right, right. Yeah, and I remember we did it. I had vice president of sales in that seat. Like I kept the titles, which is one of the things, of course, that we do away with, right? So I think there are a lot of ways having someone with the expertise helped free us up to be so much better.
Okay, so I mean, a big number, 484%. I wrote that down. That is massive. So if you think about return on investment, I mean, this is the biggest challenge, isn't it? When we look at it, we kind of go, oh my goodness, it's going to cost us X amount of money per year to have this implementer in here. It's a huge amount of money. But I'm guessing that 484% growth more than paid for the implementer.
You can't sell this to people really. Like it's not a service that you can sort of sell people because if they don't want it, it's never going to work. Right. And it's hard sometimes because when people balk at the cost, and I want to say to them, like, and I have said this to people, if you don't get back 20 times my fee and enterprise value minimum, something's gone horribly wrong, like horribly wrong, but it's hard for people to imagine that. They can't see the value until they get in the room. And from the first session, every single time, they're like, oh, I get it now.
It's so true. Yeah.
It's such an interesting because it's very unique.
But you're right, but you have to want to do it, don't you? Because this is not easy. I mean, it's simple. We always say it's simple, but it's not easy. And it is simple. The tools are beautifully simple, but there is a fundamental shift that you have to make in the way that you think, in the way that you operate, in the way that you, as a team, work together. And if you're not prepared to do that, nothing will make it happen.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and I'm not doing the work for you, so you do the work. Right.
Yeah. So you shifted from, obviously, well, you're still an owner of the business, but you shifted into being an EOS implementer. You've been doing that for a couple of years now. What has been the biggest most joyful moment for you in that 2 years?
I had a client a few months ago call me crying because they hit a milestone that they never thought they were gonna hit, and she called me in tears, and then I started crying, and she was just, all the thank yous and, giving me credit and, and not to minimize the importance of what we do, but it's like, "You guys did all of this." Like, I helped facilitate the conversation, but, I'm in the room and I'm kind of part of the team, but you guys did this. But her calling me in tears was it it was a and it's happened before, but there was something about this call because this was somebody who was really didn't think that the business had legs, was concerned about that, and we started working together, and all of a sudden, things started just moving up, and it was so nice to be part of that journey with them. So I had a friend who was a massage therapist, and she makes no money and she struggles. It's very expensive to live here in California, and she struggles. And I remember a few years ago asking her, I said, "Why don't you get another job? Have you thought about doing something else? Because I know it's hard." And she said, "Of course." She said, "But people are happy they're happy when they come to see me, and they're happier when they leave. And I don't know of any other job where that happens. Like my days are wonderful. Everyone's always happy to see me and they're happier. Where am I going to find that? So I sacrificed the financial for this. And one of the things I love about this job is that it's very much the same. The teams are so happy to see me. There's hugs when people come in. It's like it's even when things are hard, they're happy to come in and they're happy when they leave. Even at the end of a long day, their brains are tired. We've really gone through the ringer on some things sometimes. I love being on the journey with the people. Does that make sense? Like it's
Oh, makes perfect sense to me because I'm sitting here kind of going, my heart is singing. It's like, I'm the same. It's like, and you get the phone calls or the text messages and it's like, it's just, you're right. They do all the work, but isn't it wonderful to kind of be part of that journey with them and to share in the successes, but also we're there when things get tough for them as well. It's not all a bed of roses. There's often times when I get the phone call. It's like, we really need to have a quick chat to you. And, being able to share with them the tools. I think what I love about the EOS tools is they often take the emotion out of things. And so, you get somebody who rings up very emotional about something that's going on in the business. It's like the answers in the tools. Let's work through the tools. Let's see what we can do with this. And at the end of it, they kind of go, oh, wow, it took all the emotion out of it. And now I have a clear understanding of what needs to be done.
it's one of the biggest gifts. People don't talk about this enough. One of the biggest gifts that I got when I was running my business from the tools is having a way to have difficult conversations much easier because now you have all this stuff you can point to. You can point to the rocks, people's, that they're not doing well or core values or, the scorecard, whatever it is. Like there are so many ways that you get input into how people are doing that it makes it more black and white when somebody's not the right fit. Where previously I remember you'd be like, "Oh, Bob's not the right fit," but I couldn't say why. And the conversations were hard. And like one of the biggest gifts I got was having the clarity of knowing what I need to talk about in that conversation. Cause now it's not about us. It's about this stuff. We're looking at this data together. Right. And to me, at that time in my life, I was not skilled at having difficult conversations. So it made that so much easier for me.
Completely agree. So do you have a favorite tool?
I think IDSing, I think the way we problem solve, one of the things I love most is teaching teams how to identify issues because it takes most teams really, I would say, typically 9 to 12 months to get really good at, this is the issue in one sentence. Because normally, people, okay, what's the problem? And like, here's the cadence. It's so funny. There is an exhale followed by a long so. They go like, so, okay, well, Deborah, tell us what the problem is. And they go, so, blah, 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 and they get the whole story, right? And teaching, it's one of my favorite things to do. I make it a game. I go like, interrupt each other and help each other figure it out. Like you do this as a team and you'll all get better at identifying the issue. And my teams get so excited when they get good. They'll call me sometimes, or, I'll observe an L10 and I'll see how they're doing. And then 6 months later, I'll do another one. I'll go, oh man, you guys are crushing it at this. Teaching people how to do it, it's so freeing for people because now their conversations become super potent, where before they were very rambly and didn't go anywhere. So my favorite, I think that's probably my favorite thing is teaching people how to do that.
And you're right, it does take 9 to 12 months for them to really get it because, and as you know, we sit and we observe level 10 meetings and sometimes you're sitting there going, oh my goodness, how can you not get this? And we forget because we're doing it all the time, but it's a muscle. It's like going to the gym. You have to work on it. You have to really use it all the time and really get good at it repeat it often so that you get good at it.
I always, I tell people, so for those who don't know, so for EOS implementers, we get together every quarter, as you know, for QCE, and we have gatherings. And I wish we could show people our problem solving because we will put issues on the board. And as a group of implementers, we'll get through 75 issues in an hour and a half at QCE. And it's just boom, 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 or you solved great, move to the next one. And People can't imagine that you can solve issues that quickly. They think you have to just go on and on. It's like, no, 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 no. If you tee it up clearly and if you stop the conversation when you have what you need, you guys can cruise through so many issues in an hour. It's unbelievable. So I have a real passion for that because I cannot stand boring meetings and I cannot stand hearing people. I shouldn't say I can't stand hearing, but it's just when people haven't learned the skill of brevity with regard to being able to get down. So before I did this, I spent several years studying. It's called Lean, Toyota Production System, right? I studied with LEI, Lean Enterprise Institute, and I was so involved in that community, which is all about boiling everything down and what's the issue and ask why 5 times to go get to what the real issue is. And there's so much of that in this, right? Like, what's the issue? Customer satisfaction is down. And you go, well, why? Oh, well, because last month, 30% of orders left late. Oh, so the issue is not the customer. Why did 30% of orders go out late? Oh, well, because there's a new warehouse supervisor and he's not training people on the process. Well, that sounds like an issue. What's happening there? You dig down and you go, oh, well, the supervisor said the process was broken, so he told people to not follow it. I said, well, so now you have a few issues. The process is broken. The supervisor is unilaterally telling people to not follow the process. Nobody knew that. He didn't ask anyone, and there was no way to track whether or not they were following them. Like, we actually have 3 issues here we need to solve. And they go, oh, yeah, instead of customer sat is down.
Customer service. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Right. So, teaching people to do that, it's so much fun. And people get addicted to it because they start to see how much faster things move.
And it's not just why questions. I mean, it's all the W questions, isn't it? I mean, I love sort of, so when did this start to happen and who is it affecting and why is that? And it's like, you start to ask all these questions because I think a lot of people go, the classic one I see coming into a lot of meetings is like, oh, sales are down. It's marketing's issue. And it's like they've automatically jumped to the issue and potentially that they're now going to start discussing a solution, but they haven't really got to the issue at all. And so I love teaching that, ask the question. So, why is that? And when did it start to happen? Who is it affecting? And what impact is that having? And why is that? And then you suddenly find out that it's actually, they put a new CRM in. They didn't train the sales reps. The sales reps are now spending way too much time doing, work in putting things into the CRM. So they're spending less time face to face with customers. Oh, guess what? The issue's got nothing to do with marketing and leads.
So crazy. And the other thing is, so one of the things they teach you in Lean, which I talk about here as well, is there's an expression, go to the Gemba. The Gemba is the floor where things are happening. So a lot of times I'll see leadership teams trying to solve problems. I will say, can this problem be solved here? Do you have the people that you need to have in the room to solve this problem right now? Because sometimes they don't. And sometimes it's, you need to go out to where this is happening and have the conversation there with the appropriate people, right? Because sitting at a conference table in a room far away from where the work is actually happening, sometimes you don't have all the information that you need.
True. So true. Yeah. Okay. Oh yes, it's a brilliant tool. Again, I love all the EOS tools. They're all very, very simple, but they take time to get right. Even the level 10 meetings. I mean, you can get results instantaneously from the level 10 meetings. Even the first meeting changes the way that people run meetings, but it does take time for it to get really good at it. And then the more you get good at it, the better the results.
And then the more people look forward to it and stop saying, I hate meetings. Right. So they get good at L10s, and then I start coaching them to get rid of their one-on-ones, which they think is it's blasphemy. And I will tell them, like, if you want to get a third of the work done in 3 times the time, keep doing your one-on-ones. But like, what's the point in a regular weekly one-on-one? I don't get it. And they start to see after a while when the L10s are running really well, those will just drop off and then they become sporadic with purpose, which is great. Specific coaching on something, sure. But I think that's also one of my favorite moments is when they come back and they go, oh yeah, I was able to eliminate a bunch of my one-on-ones. Awesome.
Actually, let's go a little bit deeper on that because it's one of the issues I see a lot in the beginning. And you're right, people don't want to let go of it. It's like, but if I don't have one-on-one time with them, I won't be able to help them. It's like, so talk me through the process of, implementing level 10 meetings and why it gets rid of one-on-ones.
Well, so there's 2 questions there, right? So The process of implementing it is having everybody understand that we are now going to have this meeting with the team. There's going to be a very clear agenda we're going to go through every time. The agenda will not change. We are going to look at the same data every single week, and we're not going to talk about it at the moment. We're going to report the data and then figure out what issues we need to talk about, right? So, one of the things that I talk to clients about is most people are trained in most businesses to not bring up issues. They're trained out of it because you bring up an issue and then either their manager will say, go fix it and I don't want to hear about it. Or the manager will then have you fix it and then take credit for it. Or, there's so many things that happen where people are not encouraged to raise issues. And one of the most important things is I say to people, no, pick up the rug and shake it out. You want to know all the issues because you cannot fix them if you don't know what they are. But it takes a long time to train people to be comfortable. It requires a lot of trust for people to be able to put issues on the issues list. So one of the things for the L10 that's really important is creating a culture where people are comfortable doing that. Because we spend most of the time in that meeting, problem solving, but that's only going to be as good as the problems you're bringing to the meeting. So when we teach the L10, right, we're going to review all that critical information that we all agree is important every week, and then we're going to problem solve. Well, what's the point on one-on-ones? The point of one-on-ones? It depends because in different companies, it looks different. But a lot of the coaching that happens in one-on-ones shouldn't be done. It should be done as a team. Because if there's a message I have for you, it's for everybody. Jensen from NVIDIA talks about this. He's got 70 or 80 direct reports. And people go, how do you do that? And he says, I have no one-on-ones. Anytime I need to talk to someone, I gather everybody and I tell everybody what it is I have to tell this one person. And you're like, oh, so when you can get a level of trust where you can talk about all these things as a group, the one-on-ones go away. One of the awesome core values that one of my clients has, or not core values, scorecard items is zero gossip. That's a scorecard item.
I love it.
And
Yeah.
it's really important to them. And if they hear any gossip, it's not zero that week, right? And they talk about it. So, when you can create a culture of trust, well, now all these conversations become public. Everybody learns from every interaction. Now, there are times it's appropriate to pull somebody aside. Maybe they need some coaching on something. Maybe there's a sensitive issue that you wouldn't want to talk about. And of course, there will be times for that. But ongoing one-on-ones, good L10s do away with them. They do not need to be on the calendar regularly. I mean, what's
Yeah.
your experience with that?
Very, very similar. And I know the same sort of thing. I always sort of say there's usually a learning for the group in any issue that is being discussed in a one-on-one. So why wouldn't you bring it to the table and discuss it as a team? And even if it is coaching a little bit of that individual in that environment, then it's still a learning for everybody else about how to do that and what the issue is and how you can solve it. So I think, yeah, I completely agree. And if you think about it, let's just say you have 6 direct reports and you're doing a one-on-one every week, an hour with each person, that's 6 hours. That's about the time we have to spend on rocks. So imagine having another 6 hours available to kind of work on the rocks, the things that are really important that move the business rather than the one-on-ones, which I think just become just a habit. If it's become a habit, we do it, and we often don't question why we do things.
It's a habit. And also my experience is that there's a social element to it. I have a lot of teams where it's their time to connect. So then we'll call that out and say, okay, well, is there another way to do that? Instead of wasting an hour of both of your time every week where you're, purportedly talking about business, but really you just want to chat. Like, what if you took 15 minutes to just go get a coffee and sit down for a little while and connect? Would that solve it? And I've actually had a fair amount of clients where that works, but it's just a social gathering for them in some way.
Yeah, it's very true. Okay. I always ask for our guests to kind of give, oh no, I've got another question for you. That's right.
Oh,
Session room. I'm
yeah,
looking
yeah.
at your beautiful session room behind you. And
Oh, thank you.
yeah, and I wanted to talk about this because for me, from very, very early days of being an EOS implementer, I wanted to create an amazing experience in my session room. And I do get clients sort of say, but why do we have to come to you? Why can't you come to us? Why can't we do it in our boardroom? You clearly have a beautiful session room as well. So I'd love you to answer that question. Why would we come to you and not do it in our own boardroom?
Why do you go when you take martial arts to the dojo? Why do you do it there and not somewhere else? Right? Like, this is my space. It is so intentionally designed to be to do this exact kind of work. So what you can't see on behind the camera is I have my beautiful conference table, these incredible chairs. I've got a huge interactive vibe board there, and I've got whiteboards, right? So everything about this room, the lounge area behind me, there's a kitchen, and got books, I've got all the supplies people need, but your office has baggage. Like, it's time you realize that your office has baggage. There's no baggage here. This room has no memory, right? Coming to a dedicated space off-site that I have cultivated. I'm a better implementer here. Yes, I travel and I do some sessions for people elsewhere. More and more, I have now 90% of my sessions here. Eventually, it'll probably be 100, other than maybe the annuals where I agree to travel to fun places with people. But there's something about the energy in the room. Like, people come in, they're comfortable here. It's fun for them to come off site, and it's a very calming room. This is set up the way that I wanted it to set up, the way I wanted it to be set up for clients to have a certain feeling when they walk in. So like Will Gadara and, unreasonable hospitality, I went through that process of every single touch point I have from the moment they walk into the room to, okay, well, when they need to go to the restroom, what does that look like? And the kitchen and the coffee and the chairs like, I thought about every element of their experience when they come in. So we could do that, or we could go to a Hilton conference room, like, your call.
White and boring as batshit. Yeah.
The color, the walls are terrible, the chairs are uncomfortable. Like, I am in my element here. This is where I work from. I'm better. You're going to be better. You're going to enjoy coming here. So I have teams who are an hour away, and they'll spend the night in the hotel the night before. What you also can't see on this side is about 20 feet out of the door, it's water and boats. Like, it's incredibly beautiful here. And I have had people hesitate, and I say, just come once and then make your decision, because I know everybody comes and wants to coming back. It's just, it's so intentionally set up. I put so much thought and care and love into this place. So I'm sure you did. I'm sure every implementer who has a session room has.
Absolutely. I know you're right. It's like if you're working with an implementer and they're in their own environment, they do tend to perform better. But it is I have just like you do, I'm sure, but a proper coffee machine. We have fully stocked snacks and things. And I've got clients who come in and they're just like, oh, we love coming here because we get to eat all these snacks and things. It's like, great, yeah.
I have to tell you something funny. So I have, all the snacks, drinks. I have super automatic coffee machine, all that stuff. You open the fridge, I've got sparkling water in 8 flavors, and they're all lined up. So all the labels are straight. It's very calming for people. But I have to tell you, if you want to see adults get excited, more excited than kids, after we finish setting rocks, which people can be really tired after we set those priorities and sort of emotionally exhausted, I have ice cream sandwiches in the freezer. And I tell everybody it's ice cream. You will never see adults get more excited when they go, ice cream sandwiches? And you go, yeah, ice cream sandwich. More so than kids, I promise you. It's amazing.
I love it. I love it. And I think you and I are probably quite similar. I think it becomes, for me, my session room is my big kids' room. And so we have fidget spinners, and we have, I've never seen so many grown men obsessed with fidget spinners and things on the table. It's like, and they have competitions that they'll actually both spin the fidget spinner to see who can make it go the longest. It's like, come on, guys, you're in your 50s.
I should, we should talk about all the things we have, because right near me, I have the little, I don't have fidget spinners, but I have other things for people to play with.
Squishy
And
things. Yeah.
all different kinds of things. And oh man, people get, they'll they go, oh, what is this? Where do you, how, it's like, between that, the ice cream sandwiches, it's a playground.
So there you go. You've got to use an EOS implementer, because we're going to return a great deal of money to your bottom line. And we have these amazing session rooms where you get ice cream sandwiches, fidget spinners, and decent coffee. Yeah. If that doesn't sell you, nothing will.
It's
Perfect.
so true, though.
It is. Hey, we could probably talk all day, but we don't have all day, sadly. I always ask my guests to kind of share 3 top tips or tools because I love the inspiration that comes from listening to stories, but I don't want you to leave here and not have something you can actually do with it. So I know you've prepared this, and I know you had to shrink it down to 3. So would you mind sharing those with us, Tiff?
I think so. The first one is your business will move at the speed of the decisions that you make. I see so many people who hem and haw on things. And like Bezos very famously talks about two-way doors, right? He says, like, if it's a two-way door, if you can just make the decision, move. Facebook famously said, move fast and break things was their mantra when they opened, right? Like Bezos hated Amazon Prime. He hated it. He thought it's a terrible idea. And they said, yeah, but there's no cost. If we try it and it doesn't work, it's a two-way door. And he said, great, try it. It was a great idea, right? But it was simply the fact that it was a two-way door. We could move through it. And if we didn't like it, we just end Amazon Prime, right? Most decisions are two-way doors. The faster you move, the faster your business moves. So that would be number one. The second thing is I urge people to know the difference between how you make money and what people are paying you for. Those are two very different things. So if you go to a restaurant, you're making your money primarily, typically on booze, maybe or maybe not on food, but on alcohol, you certainly are. That people aren't paying you to pay 5 times the price of a bottle of wine. They're paying you for ambiance. They're paying you for the experience, right? I had a friend who had a company, little tracker devices before AirTags were around. He built up the company, sold it. He did very well. And he told me one time that his conversion rate, he said 1 in 20 people who went to the website made a purchase. I said, 1 in 20? Are you kidding me? How did you do that? He said, it all changed when I realized I was always selling people on this idea that you wouldn't lose your things. And one day I realized what people were really paying me for was a peaceful morning. You could have breakfast with your kids knowing you weren't going to lose your car keys or your wallet when you needed to run out and take them to school. They were paying me for a peaceful morning. I was selling them a tracking device, right? So I think knowing the difference between how you make money and what people are paying you for, and we could talk about what we do. It's the same thing. What are people paying us for, right? It's not the tools specifically. It's to reduce their suffering. It's to get out of chaos, to experience their business from a place of peace and success, right? So it's the same thing where, yeah. So that's the second thing. The third one, which hands down, I think is more important than any other thing I could say, is happiness is on the other side of a handful of conversations that you're not having.
Writing that down.
Happiness is on the other side of a handful of difficult conversations because they're hard.
Nobody ever says, I wish I'd kept that person longer, do they?
I mean, in every aspect of your life, like if you're willing to have the difficult conversations, happiness is right there. But it's hard, professionally and personally.
That is absolute gold here. So you're right. So, yep. Speed of decisions, that is the speed that your business will move at. Know the difference between how you make money and what people are paying you for. And then happiness is on the other side of the difficult conversations you're not having. Jeff, that is absolute pure gold. Thank you.
Thank you, Debra.
I love it. I love it. Hey, look, I'm probably going to get you back on the show again because I think there's so many more things we haven't covered yet. But for now, unfortunately, we're going to have to say goodbye because we are running out of time. But it's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you. I love the fact that I know you said your parents didn't love it, but I love the fact that you left school in order to, and then became a professional pool player and your dreams of opening a pool hall. I do have to ask though, do you ever want to open a pool hall or has that idea completely disappeared now?
No, I pass, but there's one here in town where I live, and I pass by every once in a while and go, I should buy that pool hall. And then I go, do I really want to run a pool hall these days? No, I don't. I never did it, and I ended up retiring from playing pool in my late 20s anyway. So, but it was the thing that prompted me into the life I have now. So.
Hey, Jeff, look, thank you so much for sharing so open, so honestly, and for having a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for your time.
Debra, this was great. Thank you so much.